Okay, so I'm Özge Hanuştuk from the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, and I'm here today with my colleagues Bircan Nur Kavrazlı and Tuğba Çalışır from Balıkesir University, Turkey. And we are going to present our work entitled Why Do Pragmatics-Oriented Tasks Engage English Language Learners? It's an exploratory practice that we did together, and we are going to share our experience with you. But before that, just to give you a little bit of background about our conceptualizations, we would like to also say that why we chose this topic. So as communicative language teaching models have gained importance since 1980s, pragmatic competence, which actually refers to learners' ability to manage the interplay of language and the social context in which language is used, has attracted attention in second language pedagogy and second language pedagogy related research. However, pragmatic competence has been a challenge to integrate into the English as a foreign language or EFL curricula as well, due to learners' limited opportunities to practice the additional language, or as we are going to refer to this in this presentation, to their L2 outside of the classroom context. That said, language educators examined pedagogies fostering pragmatics instruction in the EFL context, and they recently focused on using task-based language teaching for L2 pragmatics instruction, and it's actually found that goal-oriented and collaborated tasks provide EFL learners with the opportunities to practice the real world language. That said, this study is based on an exploratory practice. And exploratory practice, in a sense, is a form of practitioner research where radical positioning of learners as co-researchers allows practitioners to gain knowledge together with learners, with pedagogic activities, in order to improve the quality of life. In the photos, you see Dick Wright and Judith Hanks, two pillars of exploratory practice. They framed exploratory practice as a principled approach of practitioner research, presenting 7 principles, which are that the practitioners who engage in exploratory practice, along with their students, need to prioritize the quality of life for language teachers, both language teachers and learners. Both parties should aim to understand the quality of life even before actually aiming to bring any change to it. So that's why actually exploratory practice it diverges from traditional research paradigms such as quasi-experimental models or interpretivist approaches. So that's why it's actually a practitioner research, another paradigm. The process should involve everybody in the process of understanding, and actually the process needs to be designed in a way that it brings everyone together around the same aims. To promote a spirit of mutual development altogether. That's why exploratory practice needs to be framed as a continuous, as a dynamic enterprise. And also, the last principle is that the process needs to make sure that it doesn't add any additional burden in terms of teachers' workload or students' learning agendas. That said, all these choice of practitioner research, me as a teacher, educator, and researcher, and my colleagues as practitioners, EFL teacher candidates and teachers, this is related to the discussion of the teaching research nexus in TESOL, in teaching English to speakers of other languages, our field. And the growing concern is about the bifurcation of teaching and research in TESOL, meaning that teachers need to be concerned only with teaching, whereas researchers need to be concerned only with the generation of the academic knowledge. And so that the teachers cannot generate academic knowledge. So it's not their position to do that, whereas researchers, they have little understanding of the real life classroom frontline teachers' lives. And actually, that is what we are opposing. And this bifurcation is gaining momentum with the modernist and postmodernist approaches to education. But in response to that, practitioner research is offered as a helpful approach to bring about convergence between teaching and research. And for us, because we identify ourselves as TESOL professionals, whether we are teacher educators, researchers, and teachers, and practitioner research is helpful for us to become something that McKinley says holistic TESOL professions. But that's a very big word. So from the teacher education perspective, it's a very big question and it's a problematic issue. So that's why our project actually, it's a longitudinal project, and we are going to present the preliminary phase of it, which is related to the EP, exploratory practice, that my colleagues undertook, is about a teacher education project funded by the Scientific and Technological Research Council of Turkey. It's a one-year project on using exploratory practice to promote reflective language teacher education. That's my perspective. And the practitioners who were actually also the leaders of this project, they had the liberty to focus on the content of their choosing, and they chose to focus on pragmatic competence as the puzzling factor. And the puzzles, their puzzlement is the main drive of the exploratory practice, which makes it different from other forms of practitioner research and also research as well. And speaking about their puzzlements, now I will leave the floor to my colleagues so that they can actually talk about their own puzzles and their students' puzzles.
Yes, thank you. You see on the slide some practitioner puzzles we focused on during our lessons. Well, when we decided to conduct an exploratory practice research, we started to analyze what we wanted to discover in language classrooms. And as pre-service teachers, we tried to develop some understandings of our language learning and teaching practices. We held some reflective discussions and decided to focus on the following puzzles, which you are seeing on the slide. And we wanted to explore the reasons for our questions and clarify some of our confusion in the process. Yes, thank you.
Well, since this is an exploratory practice, we also asked our students what puzzled them about their language learning experiences to develop some shared understandings. And we encouraged them to use why questions as a starting point. And as you see, our learners puzzled about their difficulties in speaking English in the classroom environment, especially their fears of being judged by their teachers or peers. And they also express their frustrations with constant memorization in English classes and how they have difficulties forming their sentences in their mind into words in English. Next slide, please.
Yeah, thank you. So in the interest of time, I will go very quickly over the methods. So the project is itself an iterative and ongoing project, as all practitioner research needs to be. So two practitioners, my colleagues, they co-thought an L2 pragmatics instruction module that they designed, and this module took 6 weeks. But the whole process was actually even longer. We are going to talk about the procedure soon. And this process actually started with a need analysis, because my colleagues, they wanted to focus on university level EFL learners. In order to make the module more tempting and attractive and actually relevant to them, they wanted to identify which speech acts to focus on. So that's why they conducted a very minutiae need analysis that also we are going to present briefly. And these are the 6 speech acts that the target group prioritized: greetings, advice, requests, refusals, apologizing, and complaining. And as for the data sources, we drew on data coming from potentially exploitable pedagogical activities, or as they are called in exploratory practice, PPAS, practitioner journals, weekly practitioner journals, and semi-structured interviews with learners. PPAS are actually normal pedagogical activities that every teacher may use in everyday teaching, but they are slightly adapted in a way that they can also provide some insight about the puzzling process itself. So that's why in exploratory practice, it is common that practitioners collect data by using PPAS, and they are also must-have tools for practitioner researchers who engage in exploratory practice in order to position learners as core researchers. For example, KWL charts or regular think, pair, and share activities can be used to collect data in exploratory practice, as we did in our research as well. Actually, my colleagues, the practitioners of this process, engaged in a community-oriented work where they provided this, developed this training, this 6-week module, and offered this to university students at their university for free. And with the word of mouth, so actually with snowball sampling, they recruited 14 university-level EFL learners who voluntarily participated, registered for the course, and they came from diverse majors, undergrad, BAs. As for the data analysis, we chose axial coding to find out what our data would bring for us. Because it was kind of also in alignment with our methodological approach to our process, because axial coding in a sense is inductive and it is grounded, and we needed to explore, as the exploratory, so the name of the exploratory practice suggests, what our experience may bring about. So that's why we needed to identify the data coming from different sources, not only different types of data, but also coming from different learners. So identify the relationship of these data sources and the data excerpts. We used axial coding. And now my colleagues are also going to talk about the need analysis that they undertook.
Mm-hmm. Well, in order to address the preferences of university-level EFL learners, yes, we conducted a needs analysis, and we used a questionnaire to gather comprehensive insights into learners' learning needs and their language learning experiences. And we received data from 175 participants from diverse majors. And actually, we provided them with a selection of speech acts and asked them to prioritize what they considered to be most important. And the pie chart you see on the screen here illustrates the distribution of speech acts identified as the most important by the participants. After analyzing these data, we developed a course plan, and this course plan focused on 6 speech acts regarded to be the most important by the participants.
Thank you.
So here you see a timeline of the whole EP procedure. As my colleague Bircan also mentioned, we first conducted a needs analysis, and then we developed the 6-week L2 pragmatics instruction module plan. Then we started to discuss our puzzles as practitioners and held discussions throughout the whole process. Then we started teaching the module. We focused on one speech act each week, and between each week, we also recorded practitioner journals. After the module ended, we held semi-structured interviews with 9 volunteer participants. Next slide, please.
Thank you. So in all, our findings yielded 3 themes, which are, as you can see on the slide, the university-level EFL learners in Turkey perceive form-focused and exam-oriented instruction as the main barrier for their language learning trajectories. They mostly associated their positive experiences throughout the EP with learning daily use of the target language. And from the teacher-educator perspective, the practitioners problematized their formerly technicist views of L2 teaching and underscored the importance of pedagogical meaning making through reflection during practitioner research. For example, now my colleagues are also going to present each theme with some selected data excerpts, and that's the first theme.
The data here is coming from a student interview excerpt. It reflects the students' frustration with the overemphasis on exam-oriented instruction and lack of speaking practice in traditional EFL classrooms in Turkey. The student here, as you see, recognized the limitations of memorization and instead advocates for a learning environment that fosters meaningful interaction and communicative language learning experiences. We can move on. And here is another supporting data from a classroom discussion where we talked about our learners' puzzles. Again, the students are talking about their frustration with the exam-oriented instructions and the lack of meaningful interactions in their language learning experiences. Next slide, please.
The second finding we want to mention is that the learners mostly associated their positive experiences with learning daily use of the target language. And you see some of the answers students provided us from their papers. And as you can see on the screen, these students mentioned how beneficial it was to learn the daily language in the classroom and how important it is to communicate with the language in different real-life situations. Even the sentence that says, think about that we are in a foreign country, for example. They want to learn the functional language and they want to use the language as well. So we can say that the students are aware of the importance of pragmatics in language learning, and they have positive feelings towards practicing pragmatics in language classrooms. Next slide, please.
So as an EFL teacher candidate, although I had the theoretical knowledge about what a task means in TBLT, and although I learned what counts as a task and what didn't, I actually understood what it means with the practices during the practitioner research, during the EP process. And I'm sure my colleague Bircan would also like to add something here.
Yes, I actually want to talk about the fact that as a pre-service teacher, I was always told that we should reduce the teacher-fronted talk in the classroom, especially in language classrooms. But during this process, I got to understand that why it is so important, because actually this is what our learners want as well. They want to practice the language. They want opportunities to use the language in a functional way. So their aim is not to memorize the grammar rules or memorize vocabulary. They want to be able to use the language in a functional way, and they want opportunities from us. So I think this was quite important for me. I really understand why it is so important to reduce the teacher-fronted talk in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you. So based on our findings, we have some points to discuss in the end of our presentation. We first of all see that our target group, university students learning English as a foreign language, they relate their own puzzlements regarding the difficulties of language learning. Why are they not speaking English already, which is kind of a very common question that is commonly asked in Turkey. And they relate this to the grammar-heavy instruction and also the exam culture. But they are not particularly concerned about the exams per se, but actually the content of exams also are not related to their needs. It's quite grammar-oriented as well, instead of the functionality or the use of language. So that's why assessment culture is the problem itself, but not the exams. So the second one is about the module based on learning L2 pragmatics through task. It was quite relevant to our university students' needs, which also brought some engagement and willingness back to us as the practitioners, which was for us in turn motivating as the teachers. So when the process was associated, when the content was associated with authentic and real world language that our learners, our target group actually needs, it was fulfilling both for us as language teachers and also for our learners. And finally, from the teacher education perspective, we saw that practitioner research actually is quite important for that was a kind of finding specifically for me. And I observed that it was critical for my colleagues here, so that they were able to engage in identity work, in which they negotiated their professional identities as teachers. They tried to understand what we teach them at university lectures actually mean as they become the frontline teachers themselves. And that's how actually they were able to go beyond the technicism content that teacher education programs in Turkey provided to them as pre-service language teachers. So that's why it was also a call from us that all the forms of practitioner research needs to be amalgamated, needs to be integrated into the language teacher education programs. This will also provide the EFL teacher candidates the opportunities where they can actually create their own classrooms and try out the authoritative discourses that we shower on them. And also they can try out the concepts and they can make sense of the pedagogical knowledge that they acquire at university lectures. That's all from us. Before we finish, we also would like to acknowledge the support of the Scientific and Technological Research Council of Turkey. This project was funded by 2209A grant of the council. We are grateful for their generous support. These are our list of references. And if you have any questions, I am the corresponding author of the project. Please feel free to reach out. That is my contact. And as we finish, we also would like to highlight that now, as you can see, we are a transnational team. Some of us are, and actually Bircan and Tuba were working in different countries when we were putting this project together. And we also would like to highlight the possibilities that the online education brought to us with learning management systems and all the collaborative systems that they actually made this project possible. So that's why we believe our project is also a kind of relevant to the content of this very critical and important academic event. Thank you very much and have a nice day.